Hi, my name is Jessie, and today I'm going to talk about reverse culture shock. I'm going to talk about what it is exactly, my own experiences with it, and what you can do to overcome reverse culture shock. I'm originally from the United States. I was born and raised in California, but I've been living overseas for many years now. I have lived in Spain, Germany, and Argentina, and I've experienced culture shock when returning back home to the United States. I think we are all familiar with the idea of culture shock. You go to a country that is not your own country and you are surprised or shocked by the culture there. It can be strange and unsettling when you see people doing things differently. And reverse culture shock is the same thing as culture shock, but when you return to your own country, when you return to your home country after a stay abroad. You can experience reverse culture shock when you're returning from a short 2-week vacation, if you've been gone for 6 months or a year or even many years. In my experiences, the longer you are gone, the harder the reverse culture shock hits you. That is because when you are gone longer, you have integrated yourself more and more into a foreign culture, and then when you return home, everything is different and it really shocks you. My most recent experience with reverse culture shock happened when I went home last year for the first time in nearly 3 years. So it had been a very long time since I had been back on US soil, and I found a lot of things really strange. For example, some of the things that I found really overwhelming were just some of the very typical US things. The overall friendliness of everybody I felt really shocking, especially after having been here in Germany for so long. Everybody was being super polite and smiling, whether you were just going on a walk around the neighborhood or in the park or going shopping into different stores. Everyone was always having a smile and being really nice and polite, and that was just something that I have grown used to not having anymore. I really love that part of American culture. There's this friendliness when you are somewhere, or like the good customer service that you get at restaurants or in stores. After not having experienced it for so long, it was shocking but also really refreshing and made me really happy to experience once again. Another thing that quite shocked me was just how little Americans walk. I've always enjoyed walking. That's one of the reasons why I really enjoy living in Europe, is because everybody walks a lot, and I've just gotten used to walking a lot when living in a city. Of course, US cities and suburbs are much less walkable structurally, so Americans just in general walk less, even if walking is a good option. For example, one night I was supposed to meet some friends downtown for dinner. The downtown area in our town is just several streets that are full of bars, restaurants, shops, cafes, very walkable. We met at one end of downtown. We were supposed to go to dinner to a restaurant there, but the restaurant was super busy, and we decided that it would probably be better to go somewhere else. The restaurant we decided to go to was about 2 or 3 blocks away, and I said, all right, cool, no problem, we can just walk there. And my friends just looked at me like I was crazy, and they were like, what, walk? No, like, we'll just go get our car, drive there, park, and then walk from the car to the restaurant. To me, it really surprised me that that was even a thought that they had, because it seemed like it would take longer and be more work to walk to the car, drive a few streets, park the car, and then walk to the restaurant from the car. I felt like you could just, in that time, just really easily walk the few streets to the restaurant. I managed to convince them to walk with me, and they laughed and said how European I've become. That really surprised me was just kind of the level of oversharing with strangers or people that aren't close friends of yours. Of course, as I said, people in the States are very friendly and nice. They make a lot of small talk, and part of that small talk is just talking about your lives with people that you might not know very well. One thing that really surprised me was I was grocery shopping with my mom when I first returned, and we've been shopping at the same store for many, many years, and over the years you kind of get to know the employees a little bit. When we were checking out, I was really surprised at the conversation my mom and the cashier were having. My mom was asking the cashier about her husband and her new baby, which were all things, of course, that she had known about, and she was introducing me to the cashier, being like, yes, this is my daughter, she lives in Germany, she's home now, she's studying her master's, just sort of telling the cashier. It felt like she was telling the cashier everything about me, and I was just standing there like, oh, Mom, like, that's the grocery store cashier, she doesn't need to know everything about me. That was just a bit of reverse culture shock for me. I was just not used to small talk anymore, and of course, If you're somewhere where you don't know the people, you wouldn't maybe share it that much, but considering that we've been going to the same store for like 15 years, you really do get to know the people and are sharing bits and pieces about your life with them. But nevertheless, it was quite a shock to me to experience after several years of not doing that. There are, of course, bigger things when it comes to reverse culture shock than just these small, funny little anecdotes like I just told you. It can be really unsettling when you've been abroad for a while and then you come home to your own country and everything feels strange and foreign, and you begin to question what even is home anymore. In my case, one of the problems with reverse culture shock is that you are really missing the country that you left. Hopefully, sometimes people are really happy to leave, but then I think that they wouldn't experience reverse culture shock. But usually you are missing the culture that you integrated yourself into and enjoyed that culture, and then you come home and you really miss the place that you left behind. And of course, your family and friends and acquaintances weren't there. They didn't experience that with you. They can't quite relate to your stories and experiences as deeply as you would like them to. It's really strange when you leave for a long time and then come home and simultaneously everything feels really different, you feel different, and yet it is all the same as when you left it. And this is a really strange feeling and experience to have. For example, during my bachelor's, I studied abroad for 1 year. I went to Germany and I was there for 14 months. And when I returned back to the US, I really struggled with coming back and trying to reintegrate myself into my own society. I was really missing Germany and German culture, but also it felt like, that year really changed me. It was an important year in my own life and personal development. It's strange when you come back and you realize that everything is kind of the same. Your friends and family are still the same people as when you left, but you are the one that's different. The time abroad really affects you and changes who you are, and it's hard to realize that other people haven't changed in the way that you have. It's hard when coming home and experiencing reverse culture shock. I think a lot of times people are not prepared for this. When you leave to go to a foreign country, you prepare yourself for the culture shock because you know it's a foreign country with a foreign culture, and you prepare yourself mentally to know that you are going to be somewhere different and you are prepared for those differences. But when you come home, you don't prepare yourself as much mentally because you think that you're going home. You've known home for your whole life and you just expect that you'll be able to go home and everything will be as it was and you'll reintegrate yourself seamlessly. It's often really difficult to come home and maybe see some changes to the city you live in or life experiences that you missed out on while you were gone, or just realizing how much that you changed while you were abroad. When I came back to the United States after my year abroad during my bachelor's, it really felt like time had stood still and everything was just the same. I have some tips on how to deal with reverse culture shock and reintegrate yourself into your home country. First and foremost, you have to admit yourself that you have changed and that things are not going to be exactly as they were before you left. One thing that I have found really useful is to try and think of my own country as a foreign country. That is, when I go somewhere new, when I go to a country abroad, I often go there with a lot of enthusiasm and curiosity about the people, the culture, the places. I'm really excited to go and I want to explore. And when you're coming back home and experiencing reverse culture shock, it can be really difficult. But I think that one way to combat this is to view your own country through the enthusiasm that you had when you went abroad. Try to experience the places that you've known your whole life with an enthusiasm as if you were experiencing it for the first time. Or seek out new places to go and new things to do. One thing that I found useful when returning back to the United States from my year abroad was seeking out international friends. I joined an international club in the town that I lived in, so I was surrounded by lots of people that were moving from places and coming to the United States. It was really exciting for me to continue to have lots of international people in my life, and it was really fun to show them my country and my culture. I got to show people around and we got to have great conversations about cultural differences. And this is something that I really enjoy when I'm abroad, and it was nice to be able to do that when returning home, and it really helped me with readjusting back into American society. And like I said, I just try to explore everywhere and do new things and seek out new experiences the same way I would when I was abroad. It can be easy to fall back into old habits, but I think it's always good to try to seek out new experiences and meet new people, especially when you are returning from abroad and where everything was exciting and new, and it's good to try to keep some of that momentum in your life, and it can help with reverse culture shock. It is a very strange and unsettling feeling when you return home and you realize that home feels strange and foreign. This is a really weird experience, and this is reverse culture shock. Reverse culture shock can be very unexpected and difficult to go through. I hope this video has helped you in understanding exactly what reverse culture shock is and what you can do to help make it better. Leave a comment below if you've experienced reverse culture shock yourself. I'm curious to know what your experience are with it. And please give a like and subscribe. Alright, bye!